योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचा मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि. We have studied first 28 sutras from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, first chapter called Samadhipat. I am not revising Sutra 1 to 22 now, but from 23 I pick up again. He has given a new direction to our struggles in Sutra 23 by telling us the cumbersome process of Sthul Sukshma meditation and the prajna gained therefrom, and then proceeding to Chittavritti Nirodh, which he calls as Asampragyata, is avoided, and smoothly we can proceed to all samadhis by Ishvara Pranidhan. Provided, there is a proviso, provided we have the requisite bhakti, devotion. So for different temperaments, he is suggesting different things. Those who are intent upon meditation with the help of will, for them he has prescribed up till now. But those who have of a devotional temperament, they feel love for God, so they can proceed through profound meditation on God, and they will get all the samadhis. Then he proceeded to tell us the position of Ishvara in his thought. What is Ishvara according to him? Is a Purusha, Vishesha Purusha. Now here, let me pause a little and tell you what is Purusha. I told you yesterday perhaps that we are not distinguishing Stri and Purusha here. All of us are Purushas, all the ladies are Purushas. Even all the animals, Pakshis are Purushas. The Chetan part in all of us is called Purusha by Patanjali and Sankhya. We have apparently in our personality two parts, the Chetan part and the matter part, according to Patanjali. Our body, our indriyas, our mind, even our buddhi, they are all material. And there is a Chetan part, consciousness, awareness, knowledge, chit, whatever you like to call it. This is called by him Purusha and Prakriti. Two categories according to him, Purusha category and Prakriti category. And so, this Prakriti, we feel identified with the Prakriti today. That is called the state of Ajnana or Avidya by Patanjali. And if we realize we are eternally separate from Prakriti, we have nothing to do with Prakriti, if we can realize this, that will be Mukti according to Patanjali. Here let me tell you again, Vedanta does not accept this. We may feel separate from Prakriti and we may not look at Prakriti, but we are not free. We shall be free according to Vedanta, according to all the Upanishadic sages, when we know that this Prakriti is not only not I, but is unreal. And it is nothing but Ishvara's Maya Shakti. Prakriti is unreal, Ishvara's Shakti to express himself through names and forms. This is Prakriti. Anyway, so we understood Prakriti and Purusha. So we are all Purushas. And Ishvara, according to Patanjali, is a special Purusha. What is the speciality? He says in 24, Klesha Karma Vipaka Ashayer Aparamrushta Purusha Vishesha Ishvara. Now this Klesha is a technical term, not the pain which we feel. It is explained by Patanjali. It is a Sankhya term explained by Patanjali in the third sutra of the second chapter. What is klesha? Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, and abhinivesh. Avidya is ignorance. Identifying with Prakriti itself is ignorance. And the first product of this ignorance is what we call I. Individuality, personality, asmita. I am there. People in Maharashtra will easily understand this asmita. So, this asmita is the first expression or product of this avidya. Then it is followed by rag and dvesh. Rag is not, again let me tell you, language should not confuse us. Rag is not Bengali rag or Marathi rag. In Sanskrit, raga means attachment. Attachment. Or you may say likes. I like this, I like that. This liking or attachment, this is mine. I like it. This is called rag. Attraction, another name can be given to this rag. And along with that, there is dvesha. If I like a particular thing, if something opposite is given to me, it will be dvesha. Later on, Patanjali will explain again the raga and dvesha also in the second chapter. But here we understand that the product of avidya is asmita, raga and dvesh, loosely, likes and dislikes, attraction and repulsion, and then abhinivesh. What is this abhinivesh? Clinging to life. We do not want to die. We want to retain this particular life through eternity. It cannot be retained, but this tendency is called abhinivesh. This is all product of avidya. Because we feel identified with this particular body and mind, we do not want to leave it. So all these five, avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha and abhinivesh, are called kleshas. Now, we have all of us in the state of ignorance, these kleshas. Ishvara does not have. Ishvara is a special Purusha who is untouched by these kleshas. Aparamrushta means untouched. So Ishvara is a special Purusha like one of us, but separate from us. Speciality is that is untouched by klesha and then karma. What is this karma? I am the doer. This feeling itself is karma. I breathe, it is karma. I think, it is karma. I sleep, it is karma. Because I am the doer. So, I am the doer is our karma. Ishvara does not have this. Ishvara does not have this ego of doership. Apparently he is doing everything, but without the I being attached to it. In Gita he has explained very nicely. So, this is Ishvara. He is untouched by kleshas and by the doership feeling. Now, when we do any karma, it produces two types of results. One is the external, which we call fruit. If you do a job, you will get salary. If you take bath, you will become clean. But side by side, this is called vipaka. Klesha karma vipaka ashair aparamrushta purusha vishesha ishvara. So this vipaka is the outside fruit of karma. But as soon as we do any karma, even any thought, breathing, everything produces an impression on our personality, on our mind. This is called, now impressions go on gathering and gathering and gathering. For lives together, impressions have gathered. So this totality of impressions is called ashaya. Ashaya is the totality of the impressions, sanskaras, on our mind throughout lives after lives. This is our position. Now, Ishvara is a special Purusha. though he is Chetan, he is untouched by, when he is not doing any karma or when he has no doership, there is neither fruit nor ashaya. So this is how Patanjali defines Ishvara. Ishvara klesha karma vipaka asher aparamrushta purusha vishesha Ishvara. Now he says, all Purushas are actually not affected by time. Time is a part of Prakriti. So Ishvara also is obviously not affected by time. So what happens? Why Patanjali has to assume an Ishvara? That he is giving here. Sankhya does not assume any Ishvara, except as I told you, a Kalpaniya make Ishvara. We are not concerned with that here. So, why Patanjali necessarily accepts an Ishvara? This much deviation from Sankhya is doing. He knows that because Patanjali is very practical compared to Sankhya. So he knows that we require knowledge. If we are in avidya, we are struggling. What is knowledge? Let me repeat. Knowledge is not information. Knowledge is not intellectual conviction. Knowledge is realization. Knowledge is change of our consciousness. Let me explain again today. I see a wall. I know that I see the wall. If I close my eyes, I do not see the wall. But I know that I am not seeing the wall. I hear a sound. I know I am hearing a sound. If I could close my ears, I will not hear the sound. But I know. This awareness, this is our real nature. This is called by him. Now, our real nature is that, our today's nature is that I am identified with this Prakriti. But when we see the perfected people, we see that they are not identified with Prakriti. Changing our today's awareness into the right awareness, this is called Jnana. Jnana, in any Indian philosophy, is the change of consciousness according to the truth pursued by that philosophy. So everybody's definition of avidya also changes. They say that today we feel we are identified with Prakriti, but the people who are great people, Mahapurushas, they do not feel identified with Prakriti. If our consciousness, awareness can be changed like theirs, that is called the achievement of Jnana. So, now this Jnana cannot be achieved unless there is a teacher to teach us. Unless there is a Guru who is beyond this avidya, who has no knowledge, no avidya in him. He has the right knowledge. And unless he tells us, he guides us, we cannot get knowledge. That is Patanjali's practical conviction. All the yogis, they will tell you, even all the jnanis will tell you that we require a guru to get the right knowledge. Now, how the previous guru got knowledge? From his own guru. How that guru got knowledge? From his own guru. Now, what about the primitive people? What about the first guru? Unless there is a guru, how will he get knowledge? This makes Patanjali essentially feel there has to be a permanent guru. So his Purusha Vishesha Ishvara, because he is untouched by Klesha Karma Vipaka Ashaya, so he has the full knowledge always. That he defines in the next sutra, Tatra Niratishayam Sarvajnatva Bijam. Now, this Chetan, this Purusha, has all the knowledge in him, but in a seed form, Bija. My knowledge, your knowledge, everybody's knowledge, according to Patanjali, is in a seed form. It has to grow, it has to manifest. Now, in this Vishesh Purusha called Ishvara, this Sarvajnata is fully manifested. Now, For this full manifestation, he has used the word Niratishaya. I have been telling you that in Sanskrit language, negative becomes more powerful than superlative. We may say he has the best knowledge, but then somewhere somebody may have better knowledge than him. So, Niratishaya means no better knowledge than him. No better example of Sarvajñatva having achieved its fullness other than Ishvara. This is Niratishaya. Tatra Niratishayam Sarvajñatva Bijnam means that he has the Sarvajñatva in such a measure that nothing can be better than him. That is infinite Sarvajñatva. And so, from him, the old guru can also get knowledge, or they have got knowledge. So, this is his Ishvara. Now, on the other side, I told you, those who do Ishvara Pranidhan, their Ishvara is different. Even a common man's Ishvara is different, and Vedanti's Ishvara is different. If we are a little pure, little advanced in spirituality, common man knows Ishvara is our creator. Creator, preserver, destroyer. Even this English word God is defined like this by people. G is governor, O is origin, D is destroyer. So, Ishvara is creator, preserver and destroyer. We don't require a devil, Ishvara himself is there. And also, even a common Indian, I would say, understands that God is all-pervading. Ishvara is sarva-vyapi. I asked some children in a remote place, hill area in Maharashtra, where is Ishvara living? Now people influenced by Christianity, you may say, or some other people, they showed finger above. Where is Ishvara? Above. But the native people told me a beautiful expression. He is present in Anu Renu. He is present in every atom and particle of this world. He is Sarva-vyapi. Now, we call him Sarva-vyapi, but we are not fully aware what he is. If he is Sarva-vyapi, he is in me. If he is Sarva-vyapi, he is in you. If he is Sarva-vyapi, he is my own reality. That is, the developed people or Vedantis will tell us. So those who are doing profound meditation on God, knowing that he is their own real nature, they will definitely get samadhi. They don't require anything if they have that strong attraction. So, but as I told you, Patanjali has observed this, and so he has defined Ishvara in a different way. A Purusha Vishesha, neither is the Samashti, totality of all beings, nor is he the creator, nor is he our own reality, but he has seen that by profound meditation, people are reaching Samadhi. So he says, now he defines what is profound meditation. And he says, for profound meditation, we require, whenever our teacher teaches meditation, he tells two things. Name, or he calls it mantra, and then the process of meditation. So Patanjali says, Tasya Vachaka Pranavaha. His Vachaka means his name is Pranava. Yesterday I defined Pranava, let me repeat, which is new always. Prakarshena Nava iti Pranava. What is that which is new always? Omkar. So generally Omkar is referred to as Pranava in all the Vedas, all the Upanishads. So Tasya Vachaka Pranava means Omkar is his name. Now what is Omkar? How is Omkar God's name? What becomes the nature of God is Omkar is his name? Patanjali is silent on that point. Shall I tell you again in little hurriedly, not as much details? This world is made of, please listen carefully, this world is made of 5 things. Sat, Chit, Ananda, Nam and Roop. What Patanjali calls Prakriti is Nam and Roop. What he calls Chetan is Sat, Chit and Ananda, though he is not aware of Ananda. Let us not discuss that again. So, Ishwar has the capacity or his nature is to express himself through names and forms. Now, this is the meaning given by the word Om. I told you, names make things real other than God. Things are not real. They appear to be real because there is reality at the back, but they appear to be separately real because a name is given to them. Now here is Alexander before me. A Mamsapinda, a flesh, came out of the mother's womb. And then people in America, they give the name before the birth even. In India on the 12th day. So they give him the name Alexander. He thinks he's Alexander, people think him Alexander. That is what makes him separately real than God. Otherwise, all are one with God. Now, names consist of sounds. Different sounds together, Alexander, these different sounds make a name. And as per the rishis, Vedic rishis, also by the tantris, each sound has a meaning. Sound has a meaning. Example, Ka means water, Kha means sky, Ram means Agni. So every sound has a meaning. Now, the sound process starts with A. The simple sound coming out without being modified, it is let off, it becomes A. All other sounds are modifications of this A made by touching some part of our sound box. Ka, Pa, Pa, when we touch the lips, this A becomes Pa. Now this touch also is of 5 types. Hard touch with less air, hard touch with more air becomes Tha. Soft touch with less air becomes B. Soft touch with more air becomes Bha. And if the sound goes through the nose instead of through mouth fully, it becomes Ma. Touching the lips, sound goes through the nose, it becomes Ma. This is what makes the sounds different. Touch, touch, touch of different types. So all the sounds are modified by touching somewhere in a particular way, in some different ways. Now we want a sound which is the combination of all these varieties of sound. So the sound has to touch every portion of my sound box before it comes out. And if we try, it becomes the rolling sound, ooh. Ooh is the rolling sound where the sound is touching every spot of my sound box before it is coming out. So it is the combination of Ka, Kha, Ga. All the other sounds, the combination is ooh. Now I want to close the sound process. So I close my lips, becomes the close of the sound process. A is the beginning sound, is the closing sound, and U is the totality of all varieties of sounds. This is what is Om. A becomes Om. So the meaning of Om is that this world is not real, it appears real, there is because of the reality at the back, This is the meaning of the word Om. Om meaning, Patanjali is telling us, Tad japa tadartha bhavanam. That means we have to repeat Om and to feel. Bhavana is feeling. And to feel its meaning. That is why I explained you the meaning of Om, which Patanjali has not done. So, Om means the world is unreal as it appears to us. It appears real because there is a reality at the back. This reality at the back of the world is generally known as Saguna Brahma. Brahman, which is at the back of this whole world. This concept of Brahman is not there in Patanjali, but once he has used the word Om, he has seen people repeating Om, he has seen people using Om for profound meditation, and he does not deny what he has seen. He has seen that people repeating Om, feeling its meaning, profound meditation leads to Samadhi. So, the meaning of Om itself is that what we call Ishvara is also called Saguna Brahma. That means Brahman with person-like qualities. Brahman which is at the back of this world. Now suppose we are able to experience that Brahman, then the world will not be seen, the forms will not be seen. And that Brahman itself will be called then Nirguna Brahma. There are not two Brahmans. Our experience, I am experiencing Brahman, this is Saguna. When this I also gets merged, lost in Brahman, it is called Nirguna. That is the very meaning of the word Om. Now we can easily understand what Patanjali is telling. Patanjali is telling that japa tad artha bhavanam. This is the profound meditation according to Patanjali, that we go on repeating Om mentally, though in the beginning loudly, sometimes in the lips, but the real meaning will come only when we are repeating it mentally, along with we are feeling its meaning, and this is the meaning. So when we do this, then what happens? We get Samadhi of every type. This much has been told by him up to Sutra 28. Now we take the fresh Sutra today. Now we come to Sutra 29. Here he is telling, it is not a jump. Suddenly we are meditating, suddenly we get. No. There is a process. And the process is a change. And that process he describes now. What does this profound meditation or repetition of Om with feeling its meaning, what changes it causes in us? That is in 29. Tata. Tata means from that. From that japa and feeling the meaning, what comes? Pratyak chetana adhigamo. Api antaraya abhavascha. This is 29. Pratyak chetana adhigamo. Api antaraya abhavascha. This api in the middle and cha in the end means and. And also. Api means also, cha means and. Pratyak chetana adhigamo. Pratyak means prati ak. Ak means gone. Prati means reverse, inside. Innermost reality, innermost consciousness is called Pratyak Chetana. And that is what is the Purusha. And that is what is our aim. So, Adhigama means knowledge. Adhigama means grasping. Adhigama means getting, also knowledge also. Knowledge itself is getting it. So, Pratyak Chetana becomes known. Pratyak Chetana becomes grasped. Pratyak Chetana becomes realized by us. This is one effect of this japa of Om with the feeling of its meaning. But it has also another effect. And that effect is Antaraya Abhavascha. Antaraya means obstructions. Why we do not realize our real nature? Because our mind is dirty. Because there are obstructions in realizing our own real nature. Now, Patanjali has gone through Sthul, Sukshma, Prajna, and then Asamprajnata Samadhi. But this Ishvara Pranidhan will remove all the obstacles simply by our devotion to God. Our profound meditation, due to our devotion to God, will remove, not only it will give us the knowledge of the innermost Chaitanya, it will remove all the obstacles in the path. It itself will remove the obstacles in the path. Antaraya abhavascha. Now, he has to tell us what are the antarayas. Here, no praise is sufficient for Patanjali. Master psychologist he is. He is telling us what are all the obstacles. Let me remind you here, in spiritual life, nothing of the outside world can obstruct us, please. Nothing. Only our own impurity of the mind, our own I and my, Raga, Dvesh, Avinive, they are obstructing. But the details of the impurity of the mind, the details of the obstructions are given by Patanjali here in the Sutra 30. Vyadhi, Sthana, Samshaya, Pramada, Alasya, Avirati, Bhranti Darshana, Alabdha Bhumikatva, Anavastitatvani, Chitta Vikshepa, Te Antaraya. What are Antaraya? Chitta Vikshepa. What is the meaning of Vikshepa? Kshepa means throwing. Kshepa means projecting, throwing. Vikshepa means special throwing. The mind is thrown outside, that is Vikshepa. When the mind is thrown outside, when the mind is scattered, that causes the obstructions. Now, what are the particular obstructions? Vyadhi. Vyadhi means something happens to our body. And when we feel sick, ill, even if something has not happened, when we try to meditate, we'll feel, oh, I am having this, I am having that, I am having. So, this is the first obstruction. We have to outgrow. Let me have this, let me have that. Let me continue. So, if we meditate properly with love on God, Vyadhis themselves will disappear by our not paying attention to them in the beginning. Then there is Dhyana. What is Dhyana? Is mental laziness, mental lethargy. So that is Dhyana. Then Samshaya. Doubt, doubt and doubt. That is very human nature. Unless we see directly, even when we see, we feel doubt. What to speak of without seeing? These are nothing but the tamasic qualities of the mind producing doubt. But if you are devoted to God, and if you are proceeding in the profound meditation, these doubts also will vanish. You will not feel doubt. You will not feel the obstruction due to doubts. You will proceed in your own way. Then, pramada. Let me deal a little more on this pramada. What is pramada? At a particular time, under a particular situation, it is necessary that we do such and such a thing. Different. Now, for this we have to be always attentive to our needs, to the needs of the situation, but here slackness comes. The slackness is called pramada. The tendency to commit mistakes is called pramada. There is a story about this pramada. That is, I will tell you a little Mahabharata story here to explain pramada. Dhritarashtra was always, perhaps you know Mahabharata a little. Dhritarashtra always felt dejected and he would call upon his younger brother or whatever, Vidura, stepbrother. And Vidur will explain to him every time and his depression will go. But at one point, Vidura sees he is not at all amenable to what I am telling him. Perhaps he thinks of me as younger or lower. So Vidura invokes or invites his guru, and that is Sanat Kumar. He invites Sanat Kumar and says, you please explain things to Dhritarashtra. Now Dhritarashtra asks first question because he is mortally afraid of death, of himself and of his children. So he has asked, revered sir, will you tell me what is death? This is the first question. Sanat Kumar says, King, what you call death, we do not accept it as death at all. It is change of body, what is there? But I tell you, pramado vai mrityu iti. Making mistakes, tendency to make mistakes, slackness of the mind is death for a man. So this is how pramada is dangerous. So I told you a Mahabharata story to tell how pramada is an obstruction. Now, again here, if you are devoted to God, if you are having profound meditation, this pramada also will vanish. Then, next is alasya. Sthana was mental laziness, and this alasya is physical laziness. This is also an effect of tamoguna. We are not actually tired, but we get bored, we feel lazy, we are not able to get up and do our things. This is another obstruction in spiritual practice. And this alasya also vanishes when we are having profound meditation on God. And then avirati. What is avirati? We are continuously engaged in enjoying something outside. Even speaking is enjoyment of something outside. Even hearing is enjoyment of something outside. Eating. Let me not tell everything. This is our life. And if we are to go to God, this has to be given up. But we do not give it up. That is called avirati. Virati means dislike or stopping the tendency to enjoy. But though we are trying to meditate, though we are trying to proceed towards God, this catches us. My teacher used to call longing, lingering, look behind. Something catches us. The tendency to enjoy outside things catches us. But if we are devoted to God, if we are having profound meditation for God, this outside tendency to enjoy will also not stop us. We'll proceed straight to God. So that is avirati as obstacle and removed by meditation on God. Bhranti darshana. Bhranti darshana means we see something as something else. This is ordinary Bhranti darshan, but we see we are identified with Prakriti, which we are really not. This is Bhranti darshan. So, Bhranti darshan is the biggest obstacle. Patanjali is taking us inside and inside from Vyadi, Sthana, Samshaya, Pramada, Alasya, Avirati. He says, why Avirati? Because it is a wrong impression that enjoyment will give us happiness. Outside enjoyment appears to be happiness, but is misery only. Patanjali will later on explain this also. So, this wrong knowledge, wrong conception, wrong awareness, wrong consciousness is an obstruction. If we persist in our meditation on God, this will also vanish. And then alabdha bhumikatva. Bhumikatva means a state of meditation. A state of, if you go by the old definitions, a state where chitta vrittis are niruddha. This is called bhumi. Now we are not able to achieve it. When we don't achieve it, a sort of nirasha comes. So, not getting the desired result, this is alabdha bhumikatva, becomes an obstruction. We become dejected. But if the love is strong, if we are meditating, profound meditation, this will also be crossed over. And then anavasthitatva. Anavasthitatva means we get some position. Many times it happens when you get good meditation, but then we are not able to stick to it. We have got good meditation, we have got some chitta vritti nirodh, but it breaks again. You are not able to stay in that state of meditation. This is called anavasthitatva. These are the obstructions. So these are all producing. Why it happens? Because the mind is thrown outside again. So these are one after the other, inside and inside, obstructions, and all these obstructions, Patanjali assures us, in this process, if you are profound meditation by love of God, all these will gradually vanish. So, chitta vikshepa te antaraya. Now, another brilliant stroke of Patanjali. There are certain other obstructions, certain other vikshepas. Why he has not joined them with this? Because they appear to be the result of our sadhana. When we are meditating, certain things appear which were not there previously. So he has separately told us in 31, dukkha daurmanasya angame jayatva shwasa prashwasa vikshepa sahabhuva. Vikshepa sahabhuva means when the vikshepas mentioned in 30 sutras occur, at the same time occur some additional problems as you understand? Not that the vikshepas bringing them, no. Sahabhuva means along with the vikshepas happening, same time these are happening. And these appear to be the result of our sadhana. And what are they? Dukkha. Now, some old misery attacks us. Something which has pained us previously. We have forgotten it. We are not aware of it. I have a classical example on this. Sri Ramakrishna's direct disciple, Shivananda or Mahapurush Maharaj, he was meditating in Almora, and his mind was almost about to enter into the Nirvikal Samadhi. Suddenly he remembered that his younger sister had suffered torture in father-in-law's house. Her life was full of torture. And Mahapuruji felt miserable due to that memory, old memory. But immediately, because his mind was alert, it told him, oh, this is an obstruction. I do not have that misery now. So you understand how dukkha is something which is coming along with the vikshepas due to our sadhana, because the mind is very concentrated in sadhana, so old things arise. So this is dukkha. Then daurmanasya. Bengali people will easily understand. Amar monti bhalo naya. This monti bhalo na thaka, mind not being happy or mind feeling weak, this becomes daurmanasya. This happens during sadhana. And then Angame Jayatva. There is a shaking in the body. Many people have experienced this. While meditating, the body shakes. This is called Angame Jayatva. This happens because of meditation, in meditation, but it is an obstruction. And it will go away by the same process. Shvasa Prashvasa. What is Shvasa Prashvasa? Irregular breathing. Due to meditation, we feel excited sometimes. And then our breathing pattern changes. Normally also, do we breathe? Our breathing happens. We regularly breathe if we are aware, I am breathing in, breathing out. But during meditation, due to excitation or some other causes, irregular breathing comes and then we become disturbed. So these Patanjali has separated from the other Vikshepas and calls them Vikshepa Sahabhuva. At the time of Vikshepa, these also are happening till we reach the goal. And so this is included in that Ishvara Pranidhan will help us to get rid of these also. Now here the topic of Ishvara Pranidhan is over now. Now there is a linking sutra. This topic becomes over, another becomes open. And that sutra 32, Tat Pratishedhartham Eka Tattva Abhyasa. That means both these 30 and 31 obstacles. Pratisheda, we want to stop those. We don't want them to come disturb us. We want to negate them. That is Pratisheda. Tat Pratishedhartham. For the sake of stopping them, what we have to do? Eka Tattva Abhyasa. Now, Eka Tattva can be God Himself. So, this is in a way continuation of the previous sutra. That Eka Tattva, which you have been meditating upon God and God alone, that will take care of these Vikshepas. Or Patanjali says, if you make a habit, a practice of concentrating on any one object in the world, any one object, at the cost of others, we don't think of 2, 3, 4 objects. We think of one and one object only. Eka Tattva Abhyasa. That will stop these obstructions. So, Patanjali, in a wider way, gives us various methods. So, he is telling us that these obstructions I have told you. I have told you that meditation on God itself will take care. But if you want some additional means, or if you are proceeding by the old Sampradnata method, you make a habit throughout life. This is not only during sadhana. To think of one object, That will help you to get rid of all these obstructions. Tat Pratishedhartham Eka Tattva Abhyasa. Now, 33. I will call this master stroke of Patanjali, the great psychologist. Here he says what we want. Obstruction should not be there. What we want? A peaceful, blissful state of mind. Then only sadhana proceeds. We can do sadhana not in a disturbed mind. The mind should be tranquil and not forcefully tranquil. Blissful. Prasada. The prasada avastha, again compare mind with the lake. And when the water is not muddy, when the water is absolutely tranquil, then joyful it is there. The mind becomes joyful. Peaceful which is joyful which is not hilarious, In Bengali say, hoi hoi kore katiye dilo, that will not do. No excitation of joy. Joy but peace, peace with joy. This is called tranquility of the mind. And this is essential for any type of sadhana. So now, coming out of his yoga sadhanas, Patanjali is giving us a formula for our life. And he says, 4 types of situations he describes. And in those 4 types of situations, if we have 4 types of attitudes corresponding, then our mind is peaceful and blissful. So let us read that. Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekshanam. These are our responses. Sukha, Dukkha, Punya, Apunya, Vishayanam. These are the situations. Bhavanata. Bhavana again is feeling. Chitta Prasadanam. If we want tranquility of the mind, if we want a tranquil, blissful mind, if you don't want it, you do whatever you like. But if you want a tranquil, blissful mind, our reaction in 4 situations should be corresponding. What is the first situation? Somebody is happy. Our friend, distant person, anybody, we see somebody happy. Now if the mind is morbid, what happens? We feel jealous. It should not happen. This will throw us out of gear totally. If somebody is happy, we should feel maitri, friendship. My friend is happy. I have seen this. What to tell you? Sometimes there is a girl and you are praising how beautiful she is. The mother will say, I was more beautiful than her. So even between mother and daughter, a jealousy comes. And that will disturb the mind. Patanjali has given a formula for tranquil, blissful mind. He has described 4 situations and the 4 types of responses which we should have. And Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekshanam, Sukha, Dukkha, Punya, Punya Vishayanam, Bhavanata, Chitta Prasadanam. So one situation is Sukhi. Somebody is happy. Now, wrongly we feel jealous about him. What we should feel is friendship. If anybody is happy and we feel friendship with him, we will also be tranquil and blissful. And for this, I was giving an example. Our principal was coming down the steps. 2 friends were climbing. Principal asked them, what is the result? Now, one of the friends expected that both friends will get letter marks or distinction in 3 subjects. But that did not happen. One friend got distinction in 2 subjects, the other in 3rd subject. So this friend tells with a little sorrowful countenance and mind, sir, this friend of mine got distinction in 2 subjects. I got in the 3rd subject only. What principal told? Oh, so nice. 2 friends together getting distinction in 3 subjects. That is the change of attitude. If you feel, okay, I have not got distinction, my friend has got distinction. So if somebody is happy, you should feel friendship. This is Patanjali's first formula. Now, if somebody is miserable, if somebody is miserable, you should feel sympathy to keep your mind blissful. I will tell another incident on that, my personal incident. We were in the Belur Training Center. One friend of mine sitting on the front bench, I was sitting on the next bench behind him. And he had coughing, he coughed. After the class, I told him, my friend, you are having bronchitis. Get tested immediately. He didn't agree. Small thing you are calling big. And he suffered from cough for some days. And there was a medical checkup. And it was found that doctor told, why you are carrying bronchitis for such a long time? Then he asked me, I'm telling some joke, huh? Then he asked me, what pathy do you know? Do you know allopathy or homeopathy? I said, no, I have sympathy. That means when I suffer from bronchitis, I had coughed like this. Hearing that sound, I remembered that, and that's why I told you have bronchitis. So I'm joking on this word sympathy, but if you feel sympathy, your heart will expand. And so Patanjali answers to feel sympathy when somebody is miserable. Then somebody is doing good work. What should happen in you? You should feel happy. If your friend or anybody in the world is doing some good work, punya, you should feel mudita, you should feel happy. And the fourth one, I call the master stroke of Patanjali. Somebody is doing bad work, somebody is doing apunya, somebody is harming himself or something. And if you put your mind in that, you are disturbed forever. So Patanjali says, upeksha, upeksha, upeksha. Ignore. Don't put your mind in somebody doing bad work. That I call as Patanjali's master stroke. This will make you tranquil. If you get indulged in this man is doing like that man is doing like that man, gone. So, here, going on is the sadhana. But in between, Patanjali has introduced a sutra to tell a formula which will keep our mind always tranquil with joy. So, this is Patanjali. Then, our time is over. Anyway, we shall proceed slowly because I repeated 23 to 28 in greater detail, and that will be my habit. I did not repeat from Sutra 1, but to get the context, I repeated 23 to 28, and then we proceeded slowly because big sutras are there, and Patanjali is telling so many secrets of sadhana, so it takes time. Friends, will continue this on Monday. Om Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacha Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakarottam Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanam.